Hello. Are you thinking about maybe going to grad school? Are you thinking that you might want to study urban design, but aren't sure really what it is and what school is the best fit for you? My name is Ellen Dunham Jones, and I direct the Master of Science in Urban Design at the Georgia Institute of Technology, or Georgia Tech as we usually call it, here in Atlanta, Georgia. My students and I have put together a few short videos as a sort of fall 2025 open house to help you decide whether urban design and whether Georgia Tech are the right places for you. So I'm going to start by just describing what is urban design. Urban designers draw the physical framework within which architects, landscape architects, city planners, real estate developers, and civil engineers operate, whether at the scale of villages or cities, neighborhoods or regional infrastructure, streetscapes or watersheds. Urban design integrates the public spaces, the infrastructure, the social and ecological systems into a connected urban framework. That framework is then further subdivided into different types of public spaces, different street types, different block and lot sizes to accommodate different building types, different price points. They're all intended to enhance the performance of both the public realm and private life. While buildings will come and go over time, I mean, they don't last that long. A good urban framework's network of ecosystems, public spaces, and streets lasts for centuries. So, for example, Manhattan. Manhattan in New York City, its street grid was laid out in 1808 when the population at that time was just clustered at the very tip of the island of Manhattan. They didn't know at that time anything about cars or skyscrapers, but they established a walkable urban framework of streets and blocks within which new building types, new transportation modes, and new kinds of public spaces have evolved and generally really worked out pretty darn well. These days, whether master planning new mixed use developments or increasingly retrofitting places with poorly performing frameworks, my research focuses on retrofitting a lot of suburban sprawl. Today, these days, urban designers are providing communities with a public realm that is more walkable, more equitable, and more resilient to climate change. It's a really, really important job. And that's what we're here to prepare you to contribute to. Now, one of the most common questions I receive from prospective students is, what's the difference between studying urban design and urban planning? Frankly, they overlap quite a bit. Both study the history and theories of good city form, equitable and ecological systems, and how to interact with communities and engage them, address their particular hopes and fears. At Georgia Tech, the urban design and city planning students take several courses together. However, in the States, American city planners focus that much more on policy and analytical methods, while urban designers draw a lot. It's through drawing where the design comes in, actually drawing the master plan, drawing the parcels, drawing the sections, relationships to topography, to forests, integrating systems and places into high-performing cities and neighborhoods. So, if you've gotten this far, you're probably looking at several schools and might want to know, so what distinguishes the MSUD at Georgia Tech? And for one thing, there's no difference between an MUD and an MSUD. Most of the schools in the US have a Master of Urban Design. I kind of like the MUD, but But UT Austin, Georgia Tech, our universities already had Master of Science programs, and it's really the same thing. So there are approximately 25 urban design degrees offered at different US universities. I think what distinguishes Georgia Tech is number one, we are a STEM accredited degree, which means that international students can work in the US for 3 years after completing the degree. Number two, we work with and help existing communities located here near us. We do not focus on visionary sci-fi new future cities built from scratch, nor do we fly around the world to exotic locations that are able to afford to host us, stay for a week, and pretend that we've learned enough in that time to tailor urban design solutions to the local circumstances. Instead, our studios are typically within driving distance. They're in cities that we know deeply, working for communities who could not otherwise afford urban design services, but are able to use our designs to then apply for grants to actually implement several of the ideas that the students have come up with. Third, I think part of what distinguishes us, and some of these are true of several of the other urban design schools as well, but the degree of multidisciplinary collaboration is something we take very seriously and really feel the students benefit from. Most of the MSUD students have an architecture background, but we truly seek out more landscape architects, city planners, and civil engineers, so long as you can draw. We can't teach you how to draw and how to do urban design at the same time. So we do require a portfolio, and just you don't have to draw like an angel, but you have to be able to draw by hand and digitally in order to be able to be successful in the program. But we want all those disciplines because no one discipline designs the city, and we seek out opportunities for cross-disciplinary collaboration. For instance, all urban design students are required in the first 2 weeks of January to be on a 5-person team working with planning students, real estate students, and Master of Architecture students in the Urban Land Institute, it's usually just called the ULI Hines Student Competition. And we have really an awesome track record. In 13 years, we've had 18 placements, and the students have brought home $130,000 in prize money. It's a fantastic, very real world kind of a intense competition, and the students just learn a ton from that, and especially by working with the real estate students very closely. The Spring Studio, in addition, typically includes Master of Science in High Performance Buildings. Those students are actually, they're not just working on how to make individual buildings more sustainable. They work on quantifying and analyzing the performance of at the urban scale. So, they'll be analyzing energy performance, urban heat islands, stormwater, variety of other impacts of the designs that the high performance building students working with the urban designs students, usually in teams, really collaborate on, and then tweak and massage and to try to learn how to really make them the highest and best kind of performance. And then fourth, I think one of the things that really does distinguish us is an emphasis on independent research. Most of the other urban design degrees in the US their final studio is either just, or their final semester is really either focused on, it's a third studio, or it's an independent design thesis. In either case, the emphasis is on design. We actually don't. Our third semester, we assume that by this point you've done a whole bunch of studios. um, so the third semester, we require a research independent study. And it's intended to let you take full advantage of being at a tier one technology focused university with an amazing library, with very expert faculty in tons of different areas. And a lot, especially our city planning faculty, who are always ranked up in I think they're ranked number 6 in the country right now. Uh, so you get to take advantage of all these different resources to pursue research on a topic that you are passionate about and you want to really distinguish your career for the that will distinguish you when you're job hunting, that you have that much more knowledge, that much more passion for X, and it helps you find, it helps you be of interest to urban design firms that are focusing on X, whatever X is. So it can, some the research projects can have a design component, but they don't have to. Most of the students find that the independent study really empowers their design direction. And it certainly does help them land a job with a firm that shares their passion. So every year, several of the independent study students present their studies at conferences or publish them in journals. Some of those go on to PhD programs and are now them. And right now, we have MSUD alums who are teaching at ETH Zurich, Hong Kong University, and Georgia Tech. Just to give you a sample of the kinds of the diversity of the topics that the independent studies are on. Just for right now, this semester, the independent studies of the third semester students are working on preparing for climate migration, especially here in Atlanta. We are expected to be a receiver city. Climate change's urban heat island effects in cold climates. What happens to the cities that aren't used to having so much snow melt and various other things? Quite an interesting and new topic, a very understudied topic. One student has produced an amazing toolkit of resilience strategies for his hometown in Chennai, India. Another student produced a toolkit for merging form-based codes and transit-oriented development. We have students focusing on really trying to understand green gentrification's impacts on small local businesses. Here in Atlanta, the Beltline is an incredible, it was a Georgia Tech thesis students project back in 1999, and it is now built out as a 22-mile rail-to-trail loop with expected new rail, passenger rail, being inserted of some kind. But it has triggered quite a bit of gentrification, even though it's this linear green park. But understanding the impacts on individual property taxes is pretty well known. But the role of small businesses has not been as studied. Another student is looking at lessons that can be learned from informal settlements to inform more formal urban design and planning approaches. Another is looking at an assessment of specific policies' impact on implementation of missing middle housing. Missing middle housing is a hot topic. There's a lot of cities that are beginning to rewrite their zoning to allow for it, but where it's not always happening. even though it's been allowed. And so understanding more how do we really make it um, get implemented even more? Another one, looking at urban flooding that occurs outside of floodplains. This it's showing, revealing really the flaws in how we map floodplains and trying to understand better the urban design responses to those kinds of areas. Um, then one looking at factors of success and failure of tactical urbanism. Another looking at demonstrated enhanced capacity for transit-oriented development along Boston's commuter train stations. And finally, one that is a student who's working with one of the aerospace engineering labs here at Georgia Tech to design an urban settlement on the moon. A very Georgia Tech techie kind of a project, and taking advantage of all those other faculty and other resources here. So the last thing that distinguishes us, I think, is a cost that is still too high, but is way lower than most, and is really ranked as a top value. For the third year in a row, the Princeton Review has ranked Georgia Tech as the best return on investment of all U.S. universities. For the second year in a row, Forbes magazine has ranked Georgia Tech as one of what it calls the new Ivy League universities. So we're a great university, but we are still we're cheaper than most of the privates, all the privates. That said, there's never enough financial aid or graduate research or teaching assistantships to completely go around. But we have been able to support really most of our top students in the first or second semester, sometimes both. This year, as with last year, all of our third semester students either have a graduate research assistantship, what we call a GRA, or a paid part-time internship with, either remotely or with a firm here in town. And those of you who live in a state that does not have an urban design degree may be able to qualify for in-state tuition at Georgia Tech, and that cuts your cost about 2/3. So, the cost issue, it's still, I hate how expensive it still is, but our students don't go into nearly as much debt as students at so many of the other great universities here in the US. Now, as I've sort of mentioned, I've been talking a little bit about the 3 semesters. We are a 3-semester but studio-based curriculum that focuses on communities in need of redevelopment, whether that's to adapt to climate change, to address the affordable housing crisis, repair racial injustice, protect ecological habitats, and most of the time, all of the above. The studio design work is generally at the scale of a neighborhood, but those design decisions are made in relation to regional impacts on equity, energy, water, transportation, and economic development. Typically, the fall semester focuses on understanding how local culture, transportation, and real estate dynamics influence urban. Students at the same time as taking studio also take courses in the history of urban form and an introduction to real estate development finance, very important, and then also take an elective. So the spring semester typically focuses that much more on improving human and ecological resilience by applying theories, analytical techniques, and instruction in how natural systems, especially topography and hydrology, influence urban form. Students are required to participate in the ULI Hines competition, as I mentioned, and they take courses in theories of urban design and urban ecological design, and can take another elective, although the ULI can also count as an elective. The spring studio partners MSUDs with those MS in high performance building students, again, to really help whichever community they're working in that semester, address climate change issues and quantify the impacts of their design proposals. And then the third semester is when the students do their independent study. And you have a choice. You can do it in the summer or wait, just don't register for summer, go do an internship at a firm somewhere and return to do your third semester the following fall. Lately, that's what most of the students have been choosing to do the independent study in the fall when there are more faculty advisors around to choose from and more electives and things. Popular electives with the MSUDs range from a really good multidisciplinary urban policy class, classes in GIS or Geographic Information Systems. In fact, we're actually talking right now with the instructors who teach the various GIS classes about tailoring a course specifically to the urban design and real estate students. We also have electives in urban space syntax analysis, public health in the built environment, climate change in the city. So a variety of classes to choose from. And you're really welcome. We've had students take classes in civil engineering, take classes in public policy, take classes in psychology. I mean, just you're free with the electives to pretty much take whatever you want. Finally, part of what distinguishes the MSUD at Georgia Tech is our location in Atlanta, Georgia. This city has a booming economy, pretty great weather, honestly. Ranks near the middle of the US's 100 most affordable cities. We're becoming less affordable, as it are, sadly, as most of the US. And this city is home to the enduring civil rights legacy of Martin Luther King. And that has really, we breathe the civil rights legacy in Atlanta. And that also helps to connect us to really being able to collaborate with communities. We have every challenge and every opportunity here. We have a booming tech sector, but we also have very poor neighborhoods with not enough access to good jobs and healthcare. So there's anything that you really want to work on, as we have floods and we have droughts. So anything an urban designer could want to work on, we can work on it right here. So in Atlanta, that most often comes down to a relentless pursuit of equity, justice, historic preservation, while accommodating growth, climate adaptation, and cultural advancement. So, is a master's degree in urban design right for you? Do you want your designs to have more impact on today's big challenges? Do you want to work with communities and/or the developers of communities rather than devote your life to just working for kind of 1%er individual, pretty wealthy clients who can afford design services? Do you like to collaborate? Do you like to draw? Do you like to integrate complex systems into loved, resilient, just, and thriving places? If so, yeah, you sound like a good fit. If you're still unsure if you're ready, if you're a city planner or engineer and are worried that you don't have the drawing skills, don't worry. At Georgia Tech, we might ask you to spend one more semester to take the beginning design studio and drawing class with graduate architecture students who also come in with non-design backgrounds. And we've had several students who really benefited. from doing that, and are very happy practicing urban designers today. Now, of course, I'm biased, and I think Georgia Tech is a fabulous program. But don't take my word for it. Check out the rest of the videos forming our virtual fall open house. They were all produced by current MSUD students, and there's also lots of student work available. And I hate to just say this, but I'll say it twice. Get out a pencil. Here's the URL. On at the Georgia Tech Library, the student work is all collected, and you can check it out, the studio reports from different semesters at https:// HDL period HANDLE.net /1853/70770. So once again, https://handle.net/1853/70770. Follow us on LinkedIn and Instagram. And once you've got your application in, also check out the Redesigning Cities video and podcast series. I host it here at Tech, speaking with leading urbanists on a wide range of subjects. Just Google Redesigning Cities, Georgia Tech. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you here in person.